Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to Society Chat episode 3. My name is Dhilnawaaz Trotman from Dhilnawaaz Trotman Interior Design Studio, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this episode, which is going to look at the art of interior design. So looking forward to debating this today with my panel, who've all got various backgrounds and perspectives, which I think will lend itself to a really interesting discussion. Do leave us your comments and feedback in the comment box. Let us know what you think of today's episode and if you agree with some of the points that our panelists will be raising. So joining us today, we have Abbi Jones, Kaye Magnor, and Stephanie Galuzo. And before we begin, I'd just like to ask each one to briefly introduce yourselves so our audience can get to know you better. We'll start with Abbi.
Hi everyone. So I graduated from Central St Martin's studying fine art in 2015, and then since then I've been showing my artistic practice in Tokyo and London, and I decided to start the HND course with Bade last summer because I had time being at home, and yeah, that's about me.
Thank you, Abbi. Over to Kaye.
So yeah, I'm currently undertaking the HND course, the British Academy of Interior Design. So I enrolled on that course in 2019. Currently on assignment 13, so I'm kind of at the halfway point with it. But say I just have a passion for interiors, which is obviously why I've enrolled on the course, and obviously want to kind of continue to share my experiences with you.
Excellent, thank you, Kaye. And then last but not least, Stephanie.
Hi everyone, so my name is Stephanie. I'm also an artist and I'm founder and creator of Behind Canvas online interior sketching academy. So I decided to focus on teaching interior designers how to sketch because I saw there is a need in that. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So we definitely have a diverse mix for our panel today, and I'm really excited to get started on this particular topic that we're going to really debate and explore the key differences between artistic flair and creative genius, because I know that when we all get started, we tend to question ourselves quite a bit, whether or not we are more artistic or more creative, and understanding those differences is important, really, because once we understand that, we then can recognize areas that need a bit more up-leveling and areas that need a bit of refinement. And that will inevitably make us better interior designers. So together we are going to discuss and debate what's more important in interior design, artistic flair or creative genius, or is it a bit of both? So let's get started. Let's start with understanding the key difference between artistic flair and creative genius. So I'm curious to find out what you individually think. So I'm gonna throw it out there and ask you to jump right in. Whoever wants to go first, what you think is the key differences between artistic flair and creative genius.
So artistic to me is someone who has an eye for color, someone who has taste. And creative, I agree with you, Dil. It's someone who is a problem solver. Yes, someone who can solve problems, communicate. So ability to work with that artistic side. I think these are sort of two very similar, but at the same time very kind of different. Yeah, to me.
Okay, cool. How about you, Abbi?
Yeah, so I see artistic flair as something that somebody might actually say about somebody else, and that an artist themselves see themselves as an amalgamation of being creative and having technical skill. And then I see creativity as not quite problem solving. I think problem solving definitely involves like the creative and imaginative side of the brain and what goes on when you are being creative. but I see like pure creativity more as like taking a leap of faith, going somewhere where you've maybe never been before, and really just trusting your intuition. And that's kind of how I define the two.
Excellent. Interesting. And Kaye, finally.
So I think sometimes we do confuse both terms, being artistic ability and creativity, that if you can't paint or you can't draw, that you're not creative. But I don't think that's completely true. And like I said, if you're artistic, I think your skills do include, drawing, painting, sculpting, composing music, whatever it is. But if you're creative, I think that is the ability to use your imagination. And this helps us to solve problems, push the boundaries, and also come up with new ideas that probably many people may not have particularly thought of. So I think in a way they do tie together, but I think they do have, quite a few differences, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I think that for me personally, I think someone who has artistic flair is someone who has innate ability to see something and replicate it in some sort of form, whether that's through painting or sculpting or, just using sort of innate talent to create. Right. And it's at a higher level. Whereas I find creativity or creative genius someone who is an innovative thinker and which incorporates problem solving, maybe some bit of artistic ability, but it's not reliant upon artistic ability. And which brings me to the very next important question, which is, would you say that you're artistic, creative, or both? Abby?
It's funny really, because I think for me this question and answer kind of changes over time. So when I was studying full time, I probably would have said, oh, I'm definitely like half and half of both. But now that I kind of do a professional job where I'm dealing with like numbers and analytics to build warehouses and things like that, and I don't have as much time to perfect my technical ability, I would say I lean more towards being the creative in terms of my ideas are conceptual, and if I need to go and make that idea, I will go and find out what skills do I need or who do I need to contact to be able to create that. So I'd say I'm probably sitting more on the creative side than on the kind of skills side of being artistic.
Interesting. Kaye, how about yourself? You're currently, you mentioned at assignment 13, and you've been through quite a few assignments already. And what would you say has emerged? Do you think that you're more artistic, more creative, or a bit of both?
I think for me, I've learned that I am probably a much more creative person. Being artistic has never come naturally to me. You probably get a cartoon drawing out of me, if that. But I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. But I have learned that you don't have to be an artist to draw. And the more you practice, the more you take, feedback on board, the more confident you become in your own creative ability and what you can and you can't do. And I would spend hours and hours sometimes on my technical drawings thinking these aren't good enough and I'm never going to improve. But I think if you look to where you were at the beginning to where you are now, you can see a massive improvement. And that's because you've taken the time to learn, to practice and evolve. And I think, practice enables you to get faster and become more confident in it. And like I said, it doesn't come naturally to some people, didn't come naturally with me, but it's not stopped me from, evolving, trying to go over obstacles and things like that. And so now I'm on assignment 13. I think, like you said, I can see where I am now. And I know I still need to improve in certain areas, but overall I'm proud of where I've come from. And I think everyone should be, the work they produced, to be fair.
I think that, we're definitely going to come to it, and being able to understand and be able to refine either area depending on where you feel a bit weaker. But before we do, I mean, naturally, Stephanie, I would put you in the artistic box, but does it necessarily mean that because you're an artist that you're only artistic, or you only have artistic flair and no creative genius or creative juices? What would you say? What do you think yourself?
I am definitely 50-50 because I wouldn't have been able to build a business if I was just artistic. It just wouldn't work. You need to be a problem solver. You need to be creative in your strategies as well. I constantly have to rethink my strategies of how I promote myself on social media and just in general as a business. It's a lot of technical sort of work that I put into this. And the skill that I have, I wasn't born with it. I wasn't a natural artist. I wasn't a 3-year-old girl who was sketching a table or no, I had to learn it. I learned it as well. And I started drawing in general when I was 14, around 14 years old. So since then, I've been sort of developing that. So yeah, I think a lot of people think that I probably was just born with this, but I wasn't. I had to learn it. That's what I promote. I say that sketching is a skill. You can learn it. You just really want to, you basically have to wish for it. Yeah, if that makes sense. You really want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm 50-50 for sure. No doubt.
That's really interesting. So just goes to show that you can actually hone those skills or acquire those skills even if you've never had it before. It's just different with someone who is naturally talented. And I think that at the end of the day, if you look at the most successful people or successful artists out there, it's a combination of not just talent but hard work as well. So it definitely takes dedication, persistence, discipline, and I think that for me, one of the key differences, with artists, with artistic ability or being an artist, there's self-indulgence there. You can do whatever it is that you want, that you feel connected to sell your work. Whereas with interior design and needing to be creative within interior design, I think sometimes there's those boundaries because you're working with clients and their needs and having to work within these boundaries. So it does require a bit of higher level problem solving. So that brings me to the next question. What is more important, artistic flair or creative genius or creativity? Do we think that one can live without the other and stand alone? Can we say that at the end of the day, if I am not artistic, that it's okay and I don't need to even think about it or care about it, versus this, the opposite? So if I'm naturally artistic, but I'm not necessarily creative, does that, how can I be successful in interior design if I fall within one box or the other? Yeah, so I'll start with Kaye. Kaye, what do you think instinctively is better for success in interior design?
So I think as long as you have the passion, drive, motivation, and imagination, I think that creativity can be just as important in interior design. I think by being creative, you can create amazing spaces that people may not have thought of. And I would beat myself up because someone else's work was drawn so much better than mine, or the sketching was more better, or perspective drawing was more better. But again, my positive attributes may be someone else's flaws, and that's what makes us all unique. So like I said, I wouldn't particularly say I was artistic, but because I'm creative, I enable that to work in interior design, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Abbi, what are you thinking? What's more important, do you think, to be successful in interior design?
I think it's very rare for somebody to be everything. I think there are people out there who can do it all. I think it really depends on what you want to do in interior design. I think if you want to go solo and just do residential, then you probably do need to be good at everything. Whereas I think if you're willing to set up a studio and have a team of people or work in a team, then you could be like the powerhouse behind all the ideas and maybe not be brilliant technically or understand everything, but you will need those technicians to execute your ideas, and you need some way of being able to communicate them. So you probably need some level of like drawing, because verbally you can't always get your ideas across perfectly. But I do think that if you are creative, then you can basically do anything. Whereas if you have skill but you don't have that creative, imaginative, groundbreaking mindset, then you're going to struggle to be very successful.
Excellent point. Personally, I feel like if you do that evaluation on a regular basis, even once established, that it can only make you more successful, because either you're going to up level yourself, or you're going to get people who can fill those gaps for you, the specific skill sets. So Stephanie, what are you seeing exactly with your students? You have several interior design students doing your courses, and I'm sure you're recognizing certain areas that will determine success within these interior designers.
So just on that, I wanted to mention that even though maybe many people who choose interior design might not draw, but I think all of these people who do choose to study it are definitely artists inside, because these are the people with taste and with style, and obviously they want to create beautiful spaces. And to me, that's an artist on its own. You don't need to have a paintbrush to be able to sort of be an artist, if that makes sense. And I think
make it a bit louder for people in the back, please.
So the key struggles that I'm seeing of my students, the interior design students who come to me to sketch, are actually emotional blocks, because people are too scared to actually try. It's not about their ability. It's not about that their line is not straight or they don't know how to hold a pencil. It's all emotional blocks. People are too scared to try. And this is what I'm noticing everywhere. Messages that I get saying, oh, I really want to start your course, but I'm just too scared. What are you scared of? Just start,
Scared of the blank page, I guess. It's
who is here to judge you? No one. People just want to have, they're obviously, all of them are perfectionists, right? I mean, be it intuitive.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so people are just too scared, and it's just, it doesn't matter if it takes you a year, 2 or 3. I had to learn how to sketch interiors. If you know how to draw portraits, it doesn't mean you know how to sketch interiors. It's completely different sectors. So if you're an artist in one, I don't know, sector, let's say, you might not be able to do this thing. So I think people are just getting confused, thinking that, oh, to sketch equals an artist. Not at all. Just get over your emotional blocks, people, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Take some action, and that will build confidence, which brings me to the very next very important point, which is, once you have assessed, evaluated, understand, okay, these are my strengths, this is where I fit in, and these are the areas I really want to work on, or even if we want to work on both areas, how do we up level those skill sets? So it's the obvious. The obvious is take a course, learn, do something practical. But is it only reliant upon practical work or education, or are there other ways that we can refine our skills, refine our artistic ability, refine our creativity, or creative thinking? What would you say? And I know that this is something that I think every industry can benefit from, not just interior design, because I think that every industry requires creative thinkers, but we don't often question that. We don't often look inside and say, okay, yeah, I recognize that I have XYZ ability, but how can I then refine it? We just usually allow ourselves to be taken down this path, but in order to be successful, we really need to recognize, understand, and find ways to up level our skill sets, right? It doesn't matter if you're on a course already, how can we up level? And my question again is, does it have to be in a classroom? Are there other methods or other channels that can assist us in up leveling those skills? I'll start with Stephanie, only because you already have your academy. You are training existing interior design students to sketch. What are you seeing? What is the trend? Is it just purely sketching, putting pen to paper?
If we're talking about sketching as a skill, then yeah, it's about practice. Obviously, I don't know, you can read about sketching, but if you don't try it, it's not gonna work. And like everywhere else, right, in any profession, if you just study a degree and then you don't try getting a job in this sector, you will never know how it is, right? Or if you study business and you never actually become a businessman, businesswoman, or entrepreneur, you will never know what it is. So I'm a practical person, so I don't believe in theory. Theory is good, but I think you need to work on the practical side a lot. So by training, by trying things, if you think you're not artistic enough, by actually starting to sketch, trying it out, rather than saying, oh, I'm not artistic, I'm just going to leave it, I'm never going to pursue it, and so on. And same with practical. There's so many artists out there thinking, oh, I can't earn money doing what I love. Well, you never tried. You have to try, you have to start, because it's hard, it's tough. I started 2 years ago and I'm still building it. Obviously, it's still not where I see my business, but I really hope that in a few more years, it will be even better. And there's a saying that it takes 5 years to build a profitable business. So I've got 3 years to go. So let's see where it takes me. If I'll survive, I'll let you know. But yeah, so I think that's my perspective on that.
Excellent. Abby, what about you? Are there other areas or channels that people can tap into to up level?
Yeah, I think if you're looking to upskill, I would say, in my personal experience, there's like 2 ways. So practice, first of all, like Stephanie said, I think you have to reframe what you're doing as a practice, as in like it's a yoga practice. The first day that you ever start on a mat, you're not going to be brilliant at it. You're not going to be able to do a headstand. But if you come every day or like a few times a week, over time, you will get better and you'll kind of be confident in your ability and also be ready to kind of push past those fears. And then secondly, I think a lot of upskilling is about exposure and like going out, seeing exhibitions, looking at fabrics, going into other interior design stores, seeing what collections they have, what people like, getting like subscriptions to magazines, all of those things. I think just like basically being a sponge and like taking in as much as you can from wherever you can, as often as you can. And I think those two together, you would see like a huge growth over time in your ability to be both technically better and more creative in your thinking as well.
100%. Okay.
Like I said, I kind of agree with all of what you said, to be fair, but I say practice does make perfect.
Yeah.
Obviously, and you can take, like you say, classes to improve and enroll on courses and read the relevant books. Yeah. But I think as well, it's also about taking on feedback. So, when your tutor gives you feedback on your assignments, it's not like, oh, I've not done very well at that.
Yeah.
Constructive criticism, it's what you work on. And if you're not sure, I would go back and say, well, okay, I don't really know what you're looking for. Can you kind of help me with that? And, you would get sent links or, watch your tutorial. It's kind of evolving all the time and taking on that constructive criticism to make you a better designer. And like I said, I'm still learning all the time, and there's always things you can improve on. And like you said, in your feedback, you have your things you've done really well and things you can improve on. So there's always room for improvement.
And I agree with all three of you. I think that there's each one provided really critical piece of advice. Stephanie, you said practice. Abby, you've said, be a sponge. And Kaye, you've said, take on the feedback, learn from that feedback. And all of those elements is what's going to make you a better interior designer. Is going to help you up level for sure. And there's a saying that I've believed in from, you know, over a decade now, from my corporate days. So, and that's, nothing is beyond review and improvement. Even if you are at your best, nothing is beyond review and improvement. So you just have to continuously work on yourself in the various areas that you think need a bit of work on, and accept that at the end of the day, you're not going to be everything. And whatever your skill set is, that makes you a very unique designer. And you need to lean into your strengths, recognize your weaknesses, and add layers, you know, because what you bring to the table is not going to be the same as someone else. And that's just going to make you a unique business, a unique designer, and you're going to attract your own unique clientele at the end of the day for that. So yeah, I think this was a great discussion. Really interesting perspectives based on your individual backgrounds. And I'm sure everyone's taken something away from this discussion. And before we go, I'd like to ask one last quick fire question. And that is, if you had a superpower, what would that be and why? So I will just start with Kaye.
I'm going to say flying. I always used to dream about it as a child, so it's obviously something I was interested in doing. So flying.
Stephanie?
Oh, for me, it's emotional resilience, because I take everything too much to my heart, and it's just not good for me, for the business that I'm running. And I need to sort of, step back a bit. And it would be great if I had that super.
So hopefully not being a stone cold bitch, but you know, someone
no, not to that extent, but just not taking everything too much, because I really do.
Well, you know, I think sometimes it's a good thing, because you know, if you really care, then that will show. And I'm certain that that's one of the reasons why everyone loves your classes and come to it, because you are so emotional, which is so important, because you connect with your audience. So I think you need to think about your superpower a little bit more, because you need something else. That's a good thing that you have already. Abbi, how about you?
I would say for me, I was going to say flying, but because Kaye said it, I think I'll come up with my second favourite, which would be like the power of transformation. I think it would be really awesome to be able to kind of mutate into different like creatures and things, and experience the world from every different angle. I think that would be a pretty awesome superpower.
Cool. Well, I think my superpower would be, what I would love my superpower to be, is being able to read minds, because then I'd be able to nail every brief, because I'll be able to read minds.
I don't think of that.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. It was such a very interesting discussion, really interesting points, and very different from the first two episodes, which was focused more on dealing with studies and coping. But now we're kind of getting into sort of thinking like a future interior design business owner. And I think that these are important points to cover for now. You know, before we get to that point, you know, we really need to question where we're at and building our confidence, so that, you know, when the time comes for us to establish ourselves as business owners, that we have all the tools in our toolkit, you know. So yeah, thank you for joining episode 3. It was a blast, and I look forward to our audience joining us again for episode 4, and there'll be details of that episode at the end of this session. So thank you all for joining us, and talk soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye.